Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Joe here, the man who made the mistake of hiring Booker T as his math tutor. Booker, what's 2 plus 2? Thomas Jefferson, sucker! I saw that clip and I just had to laugh at it. That's still one of the funniest things ever. Anyways, first off, apologies from me and Carl for not having a recap this weekend. I lost my voice. It was like a mixture of sickness. And so I'm a big nerd, and I think I also I think I was like already kind of straining it, and I think I just fully lost it while being a dungeon master for my tabletop group. So big time nerd here, as you can tell with the Dark Souls poster, and I've had a Fallout one there before, So big time nerd. You guys know this. I'm wearing a Batman shirt for crying out loud, and I have 3 lame tattoos that I cover up, but at least nerdy tattoos. Anyways, though. That's why the video didn't come out. I'm better, though, as you can tell. My sultry voice is coming through. And I'm here to kind of, I guess react is a bad word, but I have my reactions down whenever I heard the news. So the big news that happens, and the reason this video is being made, is because... Ooh, excuse me, burpee. I blame the soda I just had. Is because PFL... After months and months and months of speculation, PFL has bought Bellator, which my reaction to that was, effing finally, that is so sick. Because I think I've covered a little bit of Bellator, I think just like once or twice maybe, on the recaps and stuff. And I'm sure I'll cover a Bellator event because they've had some like super solid events in the past in like the Retro Review series. And Bellator, though, here's my problem with them, is I think they have trouble with, one, bad booking, and their talent, they don't promote enough. And I think a lot of that could be with budget and like the fact that they've been kind of failing for a while. They put so much stock into these like aging superstars that like, I say superstars like they're wrestlers. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of wrestling lately. But like these aging vets, like they had Tito Ortiz, Stephen Bonner, rest in peace. But they had that as like a main event. They had Ken Shamrock Hoist Gracie 3, which is still, I reference it all the time because it's the funniest thing ever. He did it on purpose. Ken Shamrock never change. It's so funny. Kimbo Dada 5000. Once again, Kimbo, rest in peace. But like all these like aging guys, Rampage Vanderlei 4. They brought Crow Cop in. Frank Mir, who I still think had maybe some... I don't remember if he was on a losing streak when he got cut from the UFC, or if he was cut because he popped hot for, I think, like that... what do they call it? The picogram of, elevated levels. Funny enough, him and Tom Lawler both had picograms pop up. And Tom Lawler got fired. John Jones didn't. They're known as drug cheats, but John Jones... Some people say he isn't. Ooh. Get that out of here. Always got to take a shot at him when I can. But, like, also, excuse the hair. I nearly took a nap. Then I was like, oh, I got to do this. But it's kind of a loose off the cuff. I don't really have a script. Just kind of my thoughts on it, as well as some interesting tidbits I've picked up. See, because you guys all saw the news. And you guys all saw it. And you may not have noticed some of the things, but your brain did. And I'm here to talk about it. Shout out to Red Letter Media for that quote. So yeah, that's like my big problem with Bellator. All these aging vets that have just kind of like maybe not tanked their credibility and legitimacy, but they've heard it. Signing like aging vets like Machida, who wasn't title levels when he left the UFC. But he had still had some years on him for sure. And they paid him a ton of money. Chael Sonnen, undefeated, undisputed. That's actually a great sign, I think. Matt Mitrione I thought was a pretty solid one too, even though he was older. He started MMA late. Fedor, like we could talk about Fedor's kind of sad run there. But like Corey Anderson, Ryan Bader, yeah, they're in their 30s when they signed over, but they were still good. Gegard Mousasi, Rory McDonald, a couple others, right? They've got it. But they also had John Fitch. They also had Josh Koscheck. So, like, it's kind of awkward, right? Like, their booking is very awkward. And they're looking for new talent is usually, as mean as it sounds, they tend to look at the senior citizen section first. And at least when there's a senior citizens for MMA fighters. It's usually 35 and up, and 30 plus fights. More fights than years on your life is usually what they look for, and it's kind of awkward. Like, it really kind of hurt them, I think, a lot when they have like legitimate talent, like AJ McKee, very fun. He can be, at least. Was it what was his face? Patchy Mix just tapped out Sergio Pettis, who was a big. Sorry, excuse me. I'm gonna redo that. But Patchy Mix, he just submitted Sergio Pettis, who was a big sign. You had some like really bad fights. I think it was it Patchy Mix and Ralphie and Stotts? That was awful, and they talked trash afterwards. But whatever. They had Paul Daly, who was a little past it, but hey, they had MVP crushing cans. They had some like legitimate entertaining things there. But it just seems like they were so focused on doing one thing. Like, they were putting all their stock into Rampage Jackson, King Mo. Both guys past their primes and kind of not the greatest anymore. When they had what was his name? Emmanuel. See, that's their fault. I should be able to remember. Emmanuel Newton? Is that his name? I believe so. Spinning back fisted King Mo. He spinning back fisted him again in the rematch, but didn't knock him out. But I think he's spinning back fisted Joey Beltran as well. Yeah. They had top talent guys, and they just never did it. Now, PFL, they have a ton of talent. And their booking is also a little awkward because they're a sports format, but it's interesting. But they have a ton of talent, and they love getting these new up-and-coming guys that just show up and just put on shows, make stars out of people. They don't have the power of the UFC to make a star of just anybody. UFC just refuses to do so. But, good spotlights for a lot of great fighters. That's just fantastic. So I think the idea of PFL buying one is pretty sick. That said, some people are a little worried about things because it's Saudi money, money from Saudi Arabian investors and businessmen who have put a lot of money in the PFL, including the Francis Ngannou one contract, I believe, was part of that as well. And they want to, and they're the ones, I think, who probably gave the money to buy Bellator. So now, the idea of both these rosters colliding, they're going to kind of keep them both running at the same time for more like Bellator. They're going to do more generic, what everyone does with their booking. And then for, for PFL, they're going to do the normal tournament format, which I think is interesting and weird, but it's kind of cool when you can do cross-promotion fights and stuff like that. Like Ryan Bader, Francis Ngannou. It sounds kind of funny, honestly. But, that's a thing that can happen. Vadim Nemkov. No, I was going to say Thiago Silva. Not Thiago Silva. Thiago Santos. But he actually lost his Bellator debut, and he popped hot. But, there's a couple of things that sound interesting to me. Because I'm cruel. Let's do Cyborg and Aspen Ladd. Sounds kind of funny to me. Why not? Hey. I think there's a lot of things that they could do, though, realistically speaking, though, and that sound fun and cool and sick. I'm kind of curious how Ryzen fits in, because I know Bellator and Ryzen have a very close relationship. I wonder if that will continue with this. I wouldn't mind seeing Kyoji Horiguchi in there, going out there and putting on some shows. But here are some interesting things. So they're going to try and do PFL champions versus Bellator champions in one crazy mega event. That's interesting to me. So Don Davis, he is, I think, one of the major CEOs of it, and I'm reading his tweet here. The new MMA global powerhouse. PFL acquires Bellator. Our fighter roster is equal to the UFC, as both have 30% of the top 25 world-ranked fighters. PFL launched reimagined Bellator International Championship Series, mega event for fans in 2024, announcing that champion versus champion thing. That's the quote that really caught my eye here. Is our fighter roster is equal to the UFC, and is that true? No. So, there are some interesting things there to like examine and look at. But what was his? I can never say his name right, but I can say his first name. Yaroslav, who recently lost in Bellator. He was the welterweight champion. People really wanted to see him fight Leon Edwards. It would have been a horrible matchup because Yaroslav has nothing once he can't get the takedown, and Leon Edwards is really good at stopping takedowns. So, like, this wasn't a very fun matchup. Leon Edwards is undoubtedly the best 170-pounder on the planet. The best heavyweight is, okay, it's Francis Ngannou, which PFL owns, so you got me there. Number 2 is probably Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall could very well be number 1 if the UFC didn't just fumble that bag so hard. But the best 205er on the planet is probably Ankalaev or Jan. Nemkov, I think, would be interesting. I think he's like one of the few guys Bellator and PFL have between them that would do very well. Ray Cooper III I've always wanted to see in the UFC because he's super fun in PFL. Sergio Pettis I think would have been pretty. I think him and Patchy Mix I think would be top 10 but not top 5. I don't see any of them getting past Piotr, Jan, Gamrot. What's his? I cannot believe my brain just. Merab Dishvali. I don't see them getting past that. The Hims, the Aljos, the Sean O'Malley's, Corey Sanhagen's, Rob Font. I don't see them really getting past those guys, admittingly. Rob Font, Sergio Pettis would be really fun, though, for like a fight night card, but I think Rob Font would smoke him. It's kind of awkward. Was it Lance Palmer was a big guy in PFL for a hot minute? Imagine him versus Volkanovski. Yeah, I don't think they're comparable necessarily. I think that's just also promotion. You gotta promote it because I can't lie, they got me interested with this, and they come out and started talking crap on Dana White. What did Don Davis say? Don Davis said some things like Dana White, he brushes things off that, he just kind of brushes off like, oh yeah, good for them. If he's worried about something, he doesn't comment on things he's not worried about. And I guess Dana White in like interviews, he's been like, yeah, okay, cool, good for them. Like that. Been doing that instead of just going like, next question. That's a waste of my time. He's insinuating that the fact that Dana White is willing to waste breath on them means he's a little worried about them, which is ridiculously dumb to me. That said, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Take shots at Dana White, dude. Like, let's have this Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon feud, Maybe we can have our very own battle of the billionaires. Loser chops their head off, or their hair off, not the head. I have a transition, but I'm not gonna do it because I'm a good boy. Speaking of the money and all those things involved with Dana White and these battle of the billionaires, the Saudi Arabian money. I know a lot of people are really worried about that. I know European fans have said, they're in Premier League right now, and it's awkward. My only real experience of knowing with that, because I don't necessarily follow the Premier League religiously, the most I have with it is I've become a Newcastle fan, even though I've been Man U my whole life. I still am Manchester United when I can watch games and can get into it. I just don't have the time half the time, it feels like. But Carl has made me a Newcastle fan because he's a Newcastle fan, so I follow it through him, essentially. Like, he'll give me updates, and that's kind of my thing. He is familiar with how Saudi Arabia in their sports has been working. I don't have that. The most knowledge I have is like seeing, for lack of better term, WWE take blood money in Saudi Arabia, and it's like, all right, we're going to have a women's championship match where the only skin they show is on their face, which is nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they have to show skin. I just realized how that sounded. I'm not saying they have to show skin, but it's very clearly like, that's not your ring gear. Like, it's very awkward and very on the nose, so to speak. And then you have to do like these weird like things like, yeah, travel Saudi Arabia Airlines. I feel so safe, as they were like held on a plane for like 20 minutes you know, like hostage, terrified. You know, so I mean that's my experiences with it, like seeing firsthand, and it's creepy, it's weird, it's so that is like my big fear of this. My number one fear. My number two fear of this whole debacle is I hope they don't try going guns blazing out too quickly. That makes sense. I think just the idea of doing a PFL versus Bellator championship thing is very interesting to me. It's very interesting to hardcore fans. Like, oh my god, could you imagine like Larissa Panchenko versus Chris Cyborg? That sounds sick. I'm so in at that. Make it 155. I don't care. Sounds so awesome. That said, like, I think Bellator's brand is so damaged that the normal, I'm not even going to say casual, the mid-level viewer is going to say, so, you know, like, so, who cares? And that's very credible because Bellator has hurt their brand so much. It's awkward. It's super weird. It's a weird deal. It's worth, I didn't think I was going to be able to get this much time out of this, but I feel like I can keep talking and talking about this forever. More information is going to keep coming out. I am doing a recap this video, God willing. My excellent sultry vocals just keep crushing it this week, and I'm good and healthy and able to KO it, you know, like I said, God willing, this weekend. And I'm sure I'm going to talk about it more because this card isn't that great. And I'm, you know, this is crazy. It's kind of crazy and fun to think about it. Me and my best friend haven't talked about it just yet, so all my ideas, as you can tell, are very reactionary and impulsy. Me and my best friend, whenever me and him try to talk, I usually am able to get things down pretty condensed and easy, but I haven't been able to do that lately. He's been busy, I've been busy, it's how it is. Life. But this is just a little impromptu video. You know, make sure you guys don't forget about me too much, you know. So, yeah, that's it though. I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you so much, once again, for watching.